Welcome to the Private Practice with Soul podcast. My name is Dr. Brooklyn Storme, and I help private practice owners align their business back with their soul's calling, with their big vision and with their soul's purpose. Unlike other private practice coaches, I've traveled the world in search of spiritual resources, spiritual tools, education and information so that you can have the transformation that your soul desires and needs so that you can up-level your business. How much fun is this? I love it so much. Guys, if you're not already a member of the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group, please check out the show notes. I would love for you to be there. In the meantime, thank you so much for pushing play today. Let's begin. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Storme, and I just want to say very big warm welcome to all our new subscribers, and thank you to everybody who listens. Today, I'm really excited to take the woo a little bit further, but don't panic. I'm backing it up with science and I'm backing it up with evidence. So for those of you who love the clinical approach and empirical validation, stay here, stay with me, because this should absolutely satisfy both your curiosity for spiritual things as well as your requirement for things to be scientific. So what we're talking about today is this concept you may have heard of before around collapsing time. So what is collapsing time? Well, collapsing time is a concept that's been discussed for centuries in philosophy and in the sciences like quantum science and quantum mechanics. And it's really interesting because what it suggests is that there are infinite versions of us existing. Sort of everything's made of energy. All that energy is, moving all of the time. It's vibrating all of the time. Energy happens through waves. And so because we're energy, there's lots of different possible versions of us occurring somewhere out there, all at different times. Now, I know this might sound hard to wrap your mind around initially, but this concept has been around for such a long time. And one of the scientists who was probably the most famous when it comes to talking about unified field theory, which is what we're talking about when we're thinking about collapsing time, was a Dutch scientist, and his name was Pim. P for Peter, I for Igloo, M for Mary, Pim van Lommel. So he actually began his work as a cardiologist, and as you might imagine, he was, I guess, exposed to many near-death experiences. People who had cardiac arrests had these experiences where they were telling him that they were able to remember events that had happened, and they did this with amazing clarity, but they were events that had taken place after they had been declared clinically dead. So because he was so interested in this occurrence, Pim continued to study it, and he studied it for more than 20 years, and he did a whole lot of research over those 20 years on a wide variety of hospital patients that had been reporting these near-death experiences. And his findings were published in a very famous medical journal that you might know. It's called The Lancet. And when he published his findings, it caused quite a commotion amongst the medical community. But his view of the unified field of consciousness really centered around the quantum physics of it, in that there's this idea of non-locality and interconnectedness. And he summed it up really nicely, actually, when he said that the mind seems to contain everything at once in a timeless and placeless interconnectedness. Okay, now that statement that he said there is exactly the same as what the Dalai Lama said when the Dalai Lama won the Nobel Peace Prize all those years ago. The Dalai Lama, it's not just the Dalai Lama, it's part of Buddhist philosophy, is that the mind has no beginning and no end, or consciousness has no beginning and no end. And so what ended up happening was some scientists were saying, oh, that can't be true and you can't prove that and all of this. And so the Dalai Lama gave an Ivy League university, don't quote me on this, but I think it was Yale. And I should know this because my Lama was trained by the Dalai Lama and told me this story. So I don't know why I've forgotten how it actually went, but I think it was Yale. And anyway, so the Dalai Lama gave the prize money from the Nobel Prize to, let's say it's Yale, and so Yale set up a lab or a wing or a centre, which was solely and wholly for the purpose of disproving that the mind and consciousness had a beginning and an end. And to this day, despite all the different students and all the different fields that they've come from, going to that lab to try and disprove that idea that consciousness and the mind had a beginning and the end, nobody's been able to do it yet. And I think the exciting thing about that is that it shows that, Buddhism as a philosophy and as a form of spirituality marries up really nicely over here with medicine and neuroscience. So anyway, the important thing to understand is that information isn't encoded in some kind of medium, but it's stored non-locally as a wave function. So the wave function you can think of just like, I'll just digress here. Quantum physics doesn't have to be hard, guys. If you use metaphors and link it to what you already know, it makes quantum physics a whole lot easier, trust me. Okay, so the information's not encoded in a medium, like your brain, for example. Your brain would be a medium, but it's stored non-locally as a wave function. So a wave function simply means, you know how you've got a microwave, it's those waves of energy, or you have Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is waves of, frequency going from a satellite or a communications center to your mobile phone or to your device. It's the same thing, right? So the information is not encoded in a medium, but stored locally as wave functions in non-local space, which also means that all of the information is always and everywhere immediately available. Holy smoke, can you believe that? That blows my mind. I'll just say that bit again. It also means that all information is always and everywhere immediately available. How's that? I love this. So it's this whole idea of like, at the same time, everything is complete and there's endless mind or endless consciousness with not only retrievable memories that have their origins in, non-local space, in the form of, these waves that are invisible to the human eye. We can only measure them with equipment and machinery like an EEG or an ECG, but the brain and body are functioning really just as a relay station. It's like we are that communication tower where we're giving out frequencies and we're receiving frequencies, if that makes sense. So what does this have to do with collapsing time? Well, you needed to understand that, if you're still with me, which I hope I've kept it really simple. But the reason that that's important to understand is because when you get it, like when you can understand, okay, let me wrap my head around this, at any given point in time, all possibilities are happening or all possibilities are possible. Collapsing time means instead of being here in what we would say is a 3D world, so a 3D world is anything you can, identify with your senses. So when we're thinking about our mind, we're thinking about fourth dimension or fifth dimension, right? You can't see, it's invisible stuff. What we're doing is we're saying, well, instead of, say, getting ahead in our private practice by doing all of the things that we could be doing in a 3D world, like our marketing on social media or like our recruiting or, posting job ads or things like that, all those sort of real world activities, another school of thought is that, well, hey, there's already the version of your private practice out there that you really want. It already exists. It's already happening. You just need to tap into it. And tapping into it isn't hard. And I'm going to share with you how I use quantum physics to help collapse time for my practice. And not just my practice, but things that I want to happen in your life. And the other thing to understand too is collapsing time doesn't mean that you make things happen instantly. We are magicians all of us as healers, I believe, are magicians because, the archetype of a magician is somebody who's all about transformation. And, we want our clients to have the experience that they've both observed a transformation and participated in the transformation, but they're not really sure how it happened, right? It's kind of like we hold the secrets. We know how the magic tricks are done, so to speak. But we don't tell our clients how the magic tricks are done. They don't need to understand all the science and the machinations of CBT or anything like that. They need a tool, and then they experience their own transformation, and that's like the magic. So I'm getting off topic a little bit because I'm just so excited about talking about this. But these wave functions all store aspects of consciousness, and that consciousness is stored in the form of information, just like how it is when you tune into a radio, right? That invisible, the radio tower might be in the CBD, you might be out in the country, you can still tune into it because the waves are coming from that tower to your radio in your house, and those waves carry information, right? You don't see it, it's invisible to the naked eye, you don't see it. They're always present, those waves are always present, and they're always around us, okay? They're always around your body. And so this is super, 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 super exciting because it's like, Albert Einstein already suggested that everything in the universe was relative, and that the existence of different worlds, different forms, different phenomena, etc., was only really accounted for by this idea of relativity. Like, relative to this is big. Relative to that, this is small. Relative to this is light. Relative to that, this is dark, right? So hopefully that makes sense. That's theory of relativity in 25 words or less. But it was really a different scientist called David Bohm, B-O-H-M, that took Einstein's idea of relativity in terms of connectedness and, things like that to quantum physics. And there were, he came up with so many metaphors about how things looked. But collapsing time does take time. It's not going to happen with the click of a finger. It just means that you're going to be able to accelerate your results by tapping into the unified field, to the version of your practice, to the version of you that already exists out there. And this is easier to do than you might imagine. So what you can do is you could meditate, and what you would want to do is first off, maybe jot this down because you want to familiarize yourself with the process before you try it. So as with any meditation, for example, you're just going to settle your breath and you're going to relax your body. You're going to start from the tips of your toes, move that relaxation up to the top of your head, okay? And you're just going to focus maybe some time on your heart center to, enjoy and appreciate that loving energy. And then what I want you to do is just really imagine that there's this version of your practice that is exactly how you've always dreamed, or even better. And I want you to bring that to your mind. Okay, bring it to your mind. Imagine you are shopping at your most favorite department store, and on the shelf there are all different types of practices. And you go along and you're browsing the shelves and you pick some up, they're packaged up in beautiful boxes, and you pick up a box and you turn it over, read what's included, and maybe you pop it in your trolley, or maybe you pop it back on the shelf. And you continue this process until you find the right practice for you. And when you've got that, I want you to, imagine that you're buying it, and then imagine you go home and you unbox it, right? And allow yourself to, like, when you unbox it, boom, you're there. You're already in it. Okay? You are already in it. Like magic, you take the lid off the box and boom, you're in the middle of your beautiful private practice. And I want you to allow yourself time to explore that practice and explore as much as you can and just really enjoy being there. So you're going to, have a look at the furnishings. You're going to have a look at the mission statement. You're going to see if there's anybody else working with you. You're going to imagine the vibe of the place. Are there Is there music? Are there candles? What sort of clients come through the door? What's admin like? Spend as much time as you can imagining that and enjoying that space. And I want you to understand that this space already exists. This private practice of yours already exists. You already own it. All we're doing is we're tuning your vibration, we're tuning your wave, we're tuning your frequency into the frequency that matches this box that you've just undone. Okay? And you're going to get better at tuning into this the more you practice it, like anything. It already exists, we're just tuning into that frequency. So allow yourself to not only explore this place, but really observe how you feel in this place. Okay, really observe how you feel in it and allow yourself to feel. Are you feeling happy? Are you feeling joy? Are you feeling like you're really doing the work you were born to do? Allow yourself to really feel what it feels like to have that dream private practice. And then what I want you to do is, maybe pop the lid back on that box when you're ready and you're done spending your time there. Pop the lid back on that box and allow yourself then to think about, okay, I'm here. I've got this dream private practice in a box, so to speak. What do I need to, what sort of things do I say to myself now? What sort of behaviors do I engage in now that I need to let go of so that I can, better embody this dream private practice? What would this version of me in this dream private practice, is she saying the things I'm saying? Is she doing the things I'm doing? No, she's not. What would she say about X? What would she say about Y? What would she say about Z? And so this is how you start to get better at more finely tuning in the version of you now to that version that's already there, that you can absolutely have. Okay? And so then what I want you to do is, when you've looked at what you need to release or what you need to let go of, take the lid off the box if you want. Allow that perfect private practice experience to come alive again, for you to be immersed in it again. And now think, okay, what do I say to myself in this situation? What do I say to myself about posting on social media? What do I say to myself about dealing with unhappy clients? So what do I say to myself about being visible? All those sorts of things, and see what comes through. You might be surprised, because it's going to be different to what you say to yourself now, trust me. And then what I want you to do is, when you've finished exploring sort of more of that inner stuff, when you go to this dream private practice, you're ready to come out of it. You put the lid on the box again, and maybe you start coming out of your meditation, bring yourself back to current awareness, and maybe you wiggle your toes and wiggle your fingers and, open your eyes. Grab your journal and start writing down what came through for you. And this is the thing, when you come out of this, you've already started embodying who you need to be to have that dream private practice. You've already started the process because you did it in that meditation. You've brought part of yourself back here. But remind yourself what old you from before you did the meditation used to say about being on social media, being visible, dealing with disgruntled clients, dealing with debt collection, all that sort of stuff. What did you before the meditation used to think and say to yourself about this? What does you after the meditation think and say to yourself about this? Okay, and this process of this meditation into the quantum realm, into understanding and actually working with this concept of the unified field, will absolutely allow you to start to speed up the results that you're seeing in your private practice. And this is going to be incredibly valuable for you if you're somebody who doesn't work well with masculine energy and who doesn't work well with the linear things. The linear being, I've got to do step 1 before I can do step 2, before I can do step 3, right? If you're somebody who is more in her feminine, who needs to feel into things, who needs to be creative, who needs to imagine into things, then it's highly possible that this is going to work better for you than a collection of templates and tools and strategies, because you're embodying it. So it's not going to work for everybody in the same way. We all bring different mindsets to this sort of work. We all bring different awareness. We all bring different motivation. We all bring different levels of openness to this. But I promise, if you're open to this and you want to try it, you can start to see results in as little as a few days. You will definitely start to see results. Okay, but as I said, pace yourself with it. It's not the same as clicking your fingers and you've just got your dream private practice. You know, it takes time, but it takes less time than using the strategies and the tools and the techniques, because you're anchoring into something that already exists, not something you have to create from scratch. Hope that makes sense. I mean, this kind of stuff, it's, as I said, like, I'm not your typical private practice coach. I love all of this. I love quantum physics. I've studied it for 3 years. I know how it works. It's really, really powerful when you can wrap your head around it. I love the spiritual things. I love alignment. I love this idea of coherence and living a lifestyle and a practice that's coherent with your big vision and your purpose. And I love to help people find their own ways to access that, because it already exists. It's not something I need to teach anybody. Everybody already has access to this. What my role is to teach them how to access it for themselves. And so we go into this in a lot more detail, obviously, in the private practice method. So if you're interested in that, of course, let me know. Anyway, apart from that, we've got the this other program, Manifesting with the Moon in Private Practice. The doors for that are going to open quite soon. If you'd like to be on the waiting list for that, send me an email. Just write Moon in the subject and write your name. You don't have to send me a long letter or anything like that. Just in the subject line, write Moon, and then in the body of the email, just write, wait list and your name, and I will add you to that. If you're a podcast listener, also say that you listen to the podcast, because I'll be able to give you a discount on that, because I want to express gratitude to everybody that listens to these episodes. So I'll give you a nice big discount on the Manifesting with the Moon program. I'll put the link to the sales page up on Saturday, so you can go and read more about it and see if it's something that you're interested in. But yes, I hope you enjoyed this episode, guys. I promise I'll get back to more I want to say mainstream, but I'm not mainstream. I'll get back to other topics, let's say, on Saturday. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know how you go with it. And if you have any drama, reach out and I'll be happy to support you. Have a beautiful day, everybody. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Private Practice with Soul podcast today. If you're looking for clarity, if you need help with branding, your processes, and bringing everything into alignment with your soul's purpose for your private practice, head to the show notes and click the link for more information about the Private Practice Monthly Mentorship Group. You are going to love it. I can't wait to see you in there. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.